I suppose I had been lulled into a false sense of assurance by being in Turkey for 2.5 weeks. The people there seemed to be very considerate. In Istanbul, for example, when I boarded a tram, people took one look at me and someone would get up and offer me his seat. When I got to check-in at Istanbul airport, I explained that I had a disability. I have MND, motor neuron disease, and I asked them if there were any steps between here and being on the plane where I would have to carry my case rather than wheel it. They immediately offered to get me a wheelchair and help me into the plane. However, I said that if there were no steps, and they said that there were no steps, I would be okay, and thanked them for their consideration. After that, I fell into the hands of BA, British Airways, and things started to come back to reality. At the gate to board the plane, people suddenly began moving to the gate, so I naturally joined them. When I presented my boarding pass, I was told that only rows something to something else should be boarding. There had been no announcement. When I got on the plane, I asked one of the attendants, male, if he would help me lift my case into the overhead locker. He, with some reluctance I thought, did so, but made it quite plain that he wasn't supposed to help in this way. When seated, I found that I was in a blast of air like sitting in a wind tunnel. I asked one of the attendants to switch off my air because I couldn't reach it. I realized later that there were no individual outlets for air on this plane. I think it was a 767, and that the air couldn't be switched off. The attendant could have said this, but instead just had a little giggle with the other staff, and I sat in the blast all the way. After we had been on hold for some time at Heathrow, we made a late landing. When we stopped, we all stood up in the aisles for about 10 minutes. It appears that the much vaunted Terminal 5 couldn't arrange a parking space for us, so we had to wait for one of those portable set of stairs to be put up against the aircraft. This meant that we had to carry our cases down these steps. Now, I'm under medical instructions not to do things like this, but I wasn't going to ask these staff for any help. So I struggled down the steps and just managed to lift my case into the bus. Yes, we had to have a bus because we were parked out in the sticks because Heathrow couldn't arrange a parking space for us at Terminal 5. There were no seats left on the bus, so after getting my case up there, I stood near the door so I could cling to the rail near the door rather than hold an overhead strap, because I can't do this. People were pouring onto the bus when suddenly some jackass appeared, stopped people getting onto the bus, and told me to move further into the bus, away from the doorway. I explained my position, but this person said Nobody else was getting on this bus and nobody was going anywhere till I moved. After quite a long time of me not moving and him issuing instructions, one of the seated passengers got up and gave me his seat. I think he must have been Turkish. So this is the world's favourite airline, is it? I was rather amused later to see a notice saying that abuse of staff would not be tolerated. However, I formed the opinion from this trip with BA that it was perfectly okay for staff to abuse passengers.